Black History Month luncheon Thursday, February 29th. So, hit our website at KBLA 1580. Help us out by taking the short climate justice campaign survey, and you could be our guest at our annual Black History Month luncheon Thursday, February 29th. Thank you in advance for your consideration and cooperation. At KBLA Talk 1580, we care about the community, we care about the climate. We care about the climate.
Main thing is to make y'all bounce, you know? You know what I mean? Left to right, right to left. It's so deaf. And it's going down, you know what I mean? My man Bow Wow. Yeah. You heard? Check it out. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Around here we pop them collars. Around here we get them dollars. Every girl I see that look right like me just got hot. This kid here all about stacking up. Thought big here, but we can back it up. Long as everybody get crunk when they drop in the club, start acting up. I represent the S-O-S-O-E-E-F-M-O-B. That's me, J-D, Brat, J-E. So please believe what I do ain't never been done. Ohio is where I'm from. I heard what you said and I saw what you do when y'all play, so you don't want none. From the day to the night, I rock. Say what you like, never not. Staying in life, living the life, got to keep it hot. Shotgun in the drop, riding good, 20s, TVs, leather and wood, popping, watching Big Mama, holding it down, and the players should sing along now. All I wanna do is see you bounce with me, grab up on the hit the floor.
Welcome in to RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. This is the show, of course, where we hit all the trending topics across entertainment, sports, lifestyle, and culture. I am your host, Jill Munroe. Thank you for tapping in each and every night at 9 p.m. Pacific time. I hope you are ready, relaxed, and chill so that we can get into these trending topics and headlines. Of course, we are always on theme here at RSVP, and Andy keeps our playlist flowing. So you heard Bow Wow. That's a clue about one of the topics that we're going to get into tonight here on the show. First up, if you aren't already doing so, make sure you are following us everywhere on social media at KBLA 1580. Hit me up at Stiletto Jill. And, if you want the visual experience to go along with this audio experience, plus a good side conversation, hit up the YouTube chat. Shout out to Tony Yayo checking back in after a hiatus. We appreciate you. There's always conversation flowing there, so pop in there, check that out. Now that we've done all of that, let me let you know what we're going to get into tonight. So we mentioned Bow Wow. You got to think he was, 13 years old when that dropped? Listen, Bow Wow was flowing. Recently, there was leaks from when he was originally signed to Death Row, and they had him doing some tracks that were going to be featured in Murder Was the Case, as a, bad little kid. And Murder Was the Case, the film version. And I guess Corrupt wrote the rhymes or whatever. But at 7 years old, his cadence, his flow, his diction, his swag, what do they call it now? His riz. Really kind of amazing. It's sad that people feel like he grew up to be so corny, because when you think about child stars and what he accomplished and his presence, and to go from, rapping to on film with Like Mike, which a lot of people consider a cult classic, Bow Wow did his thing. Well, he recently came out and admitted that when he was on tour a few years back, he had an addiction to lean. And, we know that lean has been very popular across hip hop, and he kind of goes into what made him realize he really had a problem. So I want to get a little bit into that. And, I think it's important to talk about, because there's a lot of course, the debate about glamorization of drug use or illicit lifestyles across hip hop is something that has always been in conversation. But what about the getting out of it, the process of, counseling, therapy, and so forth? I think we need to talk more about that too. We talk about it, but about getting help while you're in the midst of it, not afterwards when your career is coming down. So we'll get into a little bit of that. In the second hour, we've been talking a lot about Usher, Super Bowl, new marriage, new album, new tour. And in a recent interview, he's been talking about his old relationships and being pretty open about them, more so than he has been in quite some time. And I thought it was pretty interesting. He discussed his first marriage to Tamika Raymond, and formerly Tamika Foster, and how he felt that his fans attacked him when he made that decision to marry Tamika. So I want to get into what he said, a little bit about that time period, and the interesting position that, you know, sometimes artists find themselves in, and why we think Tamika was attacked during that time frame. And in hour 3, we're going to talk about rapper Freddie Gibbs. He is a victim of a photograph leak, a revenge porn photo leak. And there's not a lot of outrage about it. And here's the thing, if it was a woman, right, there would be a lot of outrage. Probably somebody calling Gloria outrage. So I just want to have a little conversation about that and get into the details about that. And also in the third hour, we'll have an interview coming up with Mekhi Phifer. You know Mekhi from Soul Food, ER, a bunch of other things. He is currently starring in a film called Lights Out. So we'll get into that in hour 3, plus a whole lot more. Now, of course, before we get into all of that, you know I have to give you a couple of conversation starters. These are topics, things that we don't have time to get fully into, but I need you to be aware. First of all, you should know that your girl Beyonce, she is outside. Not only is Beyonce outside, Beyonce is interacting with fans and talking. I'm going to tell you what, seems to me like Beyonce has been hearing the whispers that she doesn't connect with fans and they don't know her and she seems almost robotic, and she's making a change this time around. We'll get into where she was outside at and what was happening on the other side. For now, you're locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
Infusing a sense of fun and entertainment in every episode. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
Climate is king.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that caring for the community means caring about the climate. You might have heard that we announced a pretty bold 12-month, $2 million campaign to do 4 things. Increase climate literacy, turn up the volume on communities of color in the climate conversation, connect everyday people with the resources they need to survive and thrive, and highlight frontline climate justice crusaders of color throughout this year. KBLA Talk 1580 will be bringing you insightful interviews on all of our shows to help raise your climate IQ. Each quarter this year, we will also be hosting free climate events in various communities throughout the city with food, fun, and forward-thinking conversations. Thanks to partners like LADWP, Metro, Caltrans, the Sierra Club, the California Community Foundation, the California Endowment, AQMD, MWD, and more. You'll also be hearing more about a couple of national town halls broadcasting live from Los Angeles, to which you will be invited. And we'll be rolling out a robust social media campaign on all our platforms, as well as an outdoor media campaign, all designed to educate, enlighten, and empower you in our fight for climate justice.
We want cleaner air.
Caring about the community means caring about the climate. At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that we really can change the world if we care enough.
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing Charles Barkley in a pickup game.
We'll take Barkley.
Ha! First pick. Sorry, kids.
Yep, even easier than that. With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, is it even a decision?
Okay, here's the plan. Pass me the ball every time.
This is banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One NA member FDIC.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 believes in community empowerment. LA's 99 neighborhood councils form the grassroots level of the Los Angeles city government. The system was created to connect LA's diverse communities to City Hall. While neighborhood council board members are volunteers, they are also public officials elected to office by the members of their community. Neighborhood councils advocate on issues like homelessness, housing, land use, emergency preparedness, public safety, parks, transportation, and sustainability. They also provide local expertise on the delivery of city services to their various communities. Neighborhood councils are open to participation by anyone who is a part of the fabric of daily life in said community. This includes those who live, work, or own property or a business. If you are interested in stepping up to join your local neighborhood council, visit www.empowerla.org. That's empowerla.org. It's time to think globally, but act locally. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Keeping you informed, entertained, and always ahead of the curve. This is RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
You were locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. So I mentioned that Beyonce is outside. So she was spotted out in New York for the premiere of Kelly Rowland's new Netflix film, Mea Culpa. It's a Tyler Perry production. And they had the premiere in New York. And so not only was Beyonce outside at the premiere, she was speaking to fans, signing autographs, chatting, and being very, very friendly. That's not generally the behavior that we see from Beyonce. And some are speculating with her upcoming hair care line dropping. Some people were thinking that, part of the problem with Beyonce as far as it relates to the product side, not merch, but her product like Ivy Park and, even her perfume, and perhaps, we hope not, with the hair care line, is that there's no connectivity to her fans. They feel that she hasn't opened up to her fans, and so that's why she's not able to sustain in those areas like some of her counterparts are. So we'll have to see if this is a new approach all the way around. I have to say I like it. I miss B talking. We know in the early 2000s she used to talk, and then people bullied her about her accent and things like that. So she went the mysterious route. So we'll have to see if that makes a return. So if you're wondering about the film Mea Culpa, it's basically Kelly Rowland starring as a defense attorney who must choose between family, duty, and her own dangerous desires when she takes on the case of an artist accused of murdering his ex-girlfriend. It also stars Trevante Rhodes. Speaking of Tyler, he is adding to his collection of deals. He has his deal with BET, and he has a film deal with Netflix. But I think I mentioned this the other day. He has now struck a series first look deal with Netflix. So he has a new drama that will be dropping. It's called Beauty in Black, and it's the first series greenlit under the deal. And he has like more than 10 series with BET under his deal with them. So Tyler Perry will continue, I suppose, to be a machine. In 2017, he struck the large long-term deal with what was then Viacom, now Paramount, for his deal with BET Plus. And we know that has emerged with Sisters and The Oval and a bunch of other projects. Sisters is in its 7th season. Oval is in season 5. Ruthless is in season 4. He also has the show Young Dylan at Nickelodeon. So Tyler Perry is still out there making deals. Black in Beauty is going to be a 16-episode drama. And you know that it is written, directed, and produced by Tyler Perry. And it's going to follow two women leading very different lives. Kimmy is struggling to make a living after her mother kicked her out, and Mallory is running a successful business. And they find themselves entangled in each other's lives. So we will have to see what type of things develop from this deal. No word on when it is dropping. He also has the film that is coming soon on Netflix. Yeah, it's part of the Netflix deal also, that stars Kerry Washington, about the World War II group of black women in the armed forces. So, Tyler's going to continue to bang stuff out. That's what it is. So, as I always said, the chat is buzzing. They're talking about Fannie Willis in the chat. We'll get into a little bit of that at some point. But just to catch you guys up, Tony Yayo says, I just laughed about, oh, no, 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 no. He's actually talking about Freddie Gibbs. I just laughed about the Gibbs situation. Never put yourself in a compromising position. Indeed, indeed. But if you do, wouldn't you want someone to be careful with it? Forensic accountant says, I just don't get why so many of us don't understand why there are ethical problems with that sort of behavior. This is in reference to Fannie Willis. Um, to believe that all matters and legality is dead is wrong. I agree with that. Just, I think it's a layered and complicated situation when you date in your workplace. And the thing is, generally, there are rules against it, but a lot of times, you think about it, people spend a great deal of time at work, and you know that person, you guys at least have something in common. So you understand how that happens. I remember when I worked at Nike, there used to be a joke about all the Nike couples and little Nike babies that came about from all the different people that worked in there. But then again, that was a company that had like 50,000 people. This is a DA's office where there are ethics that can come into play, and now they are, and all your personal thoughts and beliefs are on Front Street. But, more on that later. Tony Yayo says the Blackish creator, he's talking about Kenya Barris, hinted at bringing back Black AF on Netflix. I think he hinted at bringing back Black AF. I don't know if it's with Netflix because his deal is no longer with Netflix. Actually, but maybe he's reestablishing that relationship. He's currently the executive producer on the Netflix limited series, The Vince Staples Show, which has 5 episodes. It just dropped today, actually. I went to the premiere Monday night. It's like loosely based on his life, but not really. It's a slice of life, kind of in the mindset of, think if Larry David was a rapper from Long Beach. Something like that. So it's pretty interesting. If you're into that, I would definitely check it out and see. I think it's worth a look. So there it is on that. Forensic accountant says, this may be the one time I call in. Never date a subordinate. Call in, forensic accountant. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I mean, it is true. No matter male or female, things get complicated when you date someone that is a direct report to you. But you can't help who you fall in love with, although I believe you can. You simply just don't date that person. We'll see what happens. Like I said, I want to wait for more to play out. I know a lot was said today, but I want to wait until a little bit more is released before I, fully get into all of that. Okay, one other little slice of life bit I wanted to drop on you. NBA All-Star is this weekend in Indian. Is it in Indianapolis or is it in Indiana? It's actually in Indy. Okay, yeah. It's actually in Indianapolis City, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Okay, yeah. I can't remember where the actual stadium, I've never been to the state, clearly, but I don't know, if it was one of those things like in Detroit, initially the Palace was in Auburn Hills. It wasn't really in Detroit, so I didn't know if it was a situation like that, but it is in Indianapolis. So there you go. All-Star Weekend is coming this weekend. Hate those cold weather cities. Sorry. But, Mike Epps is from there, and he is definitely in the building for the weekend. So he and Shannon Sharp were supposed to meet up, which they did. They said, no video of the event, no recording, just 2 men having a conversation. And what I like about this, even though some people think, oh, maybe this is pre-hype to another interview, and maybe it is, and maybe it will lead to that. But what I do like is that, well, one, Shannon needs to develop a little bit of thicker skin, I feel. I really do think that he was being a bit sensitive to at least some portion of the joke Mike Epps laid. I mean, he's a comedian. He had said before he got on stage, he wished he had some of the attention. He DM'd, like, he's a comedian. He was playing to the moment. And I think Shannon, just because he had taken a lot of arrows from other places, Mike just happened to be, the final one that sent him over. But I do like to see 2 men have a conversation about their grievances, not a social media back and forth, not just I'm throwing shots at you on my podcast or this podcast, and then you fire back in an interview over here, but a real conversation so that, and I'm not expecting them necessarily to come out of it best friends, or I don't know what will come of it, but I do like the fact that they said, hey, we can have a face-to-face as men, not for the cameras, not for, social media, and address whatever the miscommunication was or the problem is now or where it turned into a problem and so forth. I appreciate that. So, again, I wouldn't be surprised if it turned into something later. It's only right. And I wouldn't have a problem with it either. But, people are skeptical of everything because we see so many stunts and shows on a daily. Andy?
He's going to be one of the next guests on Club Shay Shay, right?
Indeed.
And they're going to talk about their beef.
And what they did to come to terms with it.
Come on
as
now.
men. It's a teaching moment. And, it's a good thing for everybody. Mike will get the publicity that he has been looking for. He can also talk about the great things that he's doing in his hometown. He bought back the block and is refurbishing all of those houses there along with his wife. There is a Netflix series about it. Check that out. It's really good. I appreciate seeing that. So, it's a win-win for everybody. And Club Shay Shay continues with the hot place for topical content.
And I'm
besides
sorry.
here. Yes.
They was cheesing too hard on that picture. Part of me was like, yeah, we got him. This is going to be dope.
Of course it is. So, I'm not mad at it. It could be an interesting conversation and lots of places to go. That's what it's there for. That's where we're at now.
But can we come to the conclusion, right?
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to entertainment, if you see any form of drama or anything crazy that happens, just be on the lookout for some sort of project to happen right afterwards.
Oh, 100%.
I'm just saying.
Stunts
music,
and shows.
anything, please. So try not to get caught up sometimes in the drama because it's going to lead to an album dropping, a song dropping, a comedy tour
Book,
coming soon.
Whatever.
I'm just saying, the book, all that.
And the reality of it is that there are a lot of things that are courting our attention at one time at this current space. It's never been like that. We have so many different things trying to get our views, our attention, our thoughts. It's big business. And with that, people are trying to cut through the clutter. So I also think what it is, too, is that, maybe things don't start off as a plot, like, okay, we're going to do this. Although we definitely know that there are things like that. I think people definitely take advantage of the moment. And I can't say that they are wrong for doing that. Forensic Accountant is still going in the chat. He says, back to Fannie Willis, never date a subordinate. This ain't Chris Darden and Marcia Clark. Tony Yayo says, I heard that subordinate was making 3 times Fannie's salary. I wish I crossed paths with her and got a great gig. And Forensic Accountant, again, with the facts. Vivica Fox was born in South Bend, but grew up in Indianapolis. Yes, she did. She talks about it quite a bit. Thomas Outlaw says, Gamebridge Fieldhouse for some events, Lucas Oil Stadium for other events, both in Indy. I'm heading to Naptown in a few hours. Well, shout out to you. Give us an update on how All-Star is. Cold, I know. In those smaller cities, they try, and the energy's there, but it's never the same as when it's in the big ones, So listen, let's get into this Bow Wow topic, because I think it's important. Bow Wow recently discussed a period of his life where he had an addiction to lean. And we know that lean was a big, and maybe still is, a big thing in hip hop. We've seen, there was even jokes about, I talked about the Sleepy Girl mock cocktail that the girl did on TikTok, which was basically lean. But she was a white girl, so it was a Sleepy Girl cocktail. And, we've all seen the double cups everywhere. It became almost a status symbol. What's in your cup? But we know that there's serious effects and impact to that. We saw a lot of situations happen with public figures in the hip hop industry that seem to, at least from the outside looking in, maybe be somehow connected to lean use and things of that nature. So Bow Wow recently talked about his addiction and what kind of pulled him out of it. So let's listen to the clip.
I was on lean I was sipping so much syrup, bro. And I said this too, like right after Mac Miller had died, I spoke on that like I was drinking that like crazy. Like if you go back and watch, it's called the Road to Platinum documentary series on BET. If you watch that, you'll notice you'll see so many like white styrofoam cups and you'll see so many like Hawaiian Punch bottles in the studio. I was losing my fucking mind. Like that lean shit got me up. So I'll never forget me and Chris we were on our tour. I was co-headlining with Brown. The opening night was in Cincinnati. When I got off the stage, I collapsed. And I was like, what the fuck? And I went straight to Cincinnati University Hospital. I'm talking about my stomach was so fucked up that I end up going back home to Atlanta after the first show. I'm sitting in the hospital, not knowing what the fuck going on. And when I get back home, this shit gets worse. What happened was I didn't know that I was having withdrawals. That's how much lean we was consuming. Patty Webster, you know, she ended up putting out a press release, and you know, I was home in Atlanta. I saw the news, and the rapper Bow Wow was hospitalized. And da-da-da. Meanwhile, I'm at home recovering, and you know, for dehydration. Well, no dehydration. I was fucked up off lean early, like up.
So, with that, I think it's important that you know, as part of tour life, he didn't even know he had an addiction. He was just doing something. He didn't even know he was going through withdrawals. And if you've ever, you know, there's lots of shows on TLC and such and Discovery about people kicking addiction and things like that. It is a physically painful experience. It is not just mind over matter. It's physical ailments. And I feel like people don't really understand that and talk about that. We went through the crack epidemic in the 80s, but it seems far away now. And I think that even though we've seen the stuff with meth, we always think about, oh, that's over there. And that's, you know, that's those white people or things like that. And we don't think about the addictions that we have in our own community with things and how it is physically hurting us, tearing our life apart. So, you know, when we come forward, we'll talk a little bit more about this. And do we think that we'll see a change in this culture? Because it's certainly, as far as the drug culture, very reminiscent to me of the late 60s, early 70s and the hippies culture. And is it something that we will grow out of? I thought weed would have been the apex, but we're somewhere else. All of that and more on the other side. You're locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
I start Mickey Mouse around my neck, and it hang on like Miss Carter with his arm in the net. And I ought to snatch up your daughters, but I was brought up with respect. When I turned 16, I'ma call her though, and show her how to ride with the ball, yo. Let her know why I wanted her to go and fall in love with it like me a long time ago. Sing along now. All I wanna do is see you bounce with me, bounce with me. Have a partner hit the floor, bounce with me, bounce with me.
RSVP with Jill Munroe is your go-to show for staying in the know. More engaging conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Fulton County DA Fani Willis unexpectedly showed up in her own hearing to determine if she should be tossed from former President Trump's Georgia election interference case. Willis, who is black, has been resisting a subpoena to testify, but has changed her mind. A Trump co-defendant says Willis should not serve as prosecutor due to an improper romantic relationship with her special prosecutor, Nathan Wade. South Carolina Representative James Clyburn is stepping down from his position as Assistant Democratic Leader of the House Democratic Caucus. Posting on X, the 83-year-old black congressman said he had informed House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries of his intentions. In the same post, he also announced he's still planning to run for re-election. Clyburn has represented South Carolina's 6th congressional district since 1993. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Looking for a career you'll love with flexibility, great pay, and benefits, and one of the country's top workplaces? Join the growing team at Progressive Insurance. Go to progressive.com/careers and apply online today.
We all agree that America has a very serious problem.
Okay, KBLA delegation, we need your help as we launch our 2024 Climate Justice Campaign. We would deeply appreciate you going to our KBLA 1580 website and filling out a short climate justice survey, which will help us better serve our beloved community as we build out this campaign. It'll take you just a few short minutes to complete the online survey, and the information you provide us will be invaluable as we do our part to hold folk accountable and amplify the voices of our people in this climate conversation. When you take the survey, you'll be automatically entered to win seats at our annual Black History Month luncheon, Thursday, February 29th. So, hit our website at KBLA 1580. Help us out by taking the short climate justice campaign survey, and you could be our guest at our annual Black History Month luncheon, Thursday, February 29th. Thank you in advance for your consideration and cooperation. At KBLA Talk 1580, we care about the community, we care about the climate.
Tips to help improve your credit score in 2024. Establishing credit is an important key to achieving financial health, but building a credit history from scratch can feel challenging since you need credit to build credit. First, what does it mean to build credit? All consumers have a score between 300 and 850. You want your score to be as high as possible as lenders look at your credit score to make loan and credit decisions. A good credit score shows you have a track record of borrowing money responsibly. Remember, it's never too late to build or rebuild your credit. This segment is sponsored by J.P. Morgan Chase & Company.
If you say you care about the community, you have to also care about the climate. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black.
Watch out! You got me!
The galaxy is safe once again.
In the pretend universe, kids play with pretend guns. In the real world, it's up to us to make sure they don't get their hands on a real gun. If you have a gun in the house, keep it locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
It's game day at Jim's house, and the spread is impressive.
Mike's already done some damage with the hot wings, and now he's dropping back and going deep for another slice of pizza.
I sure hope he brought the Pepto.
Mike knows that Pepto-Bismol provides fast 5-symptom relief from unexpected stomach upsets. He's no rookie.
The way he's throwing back those nachos, he's the GOAT.
Be ready for game day with Pepto-Bismol.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Curating the most compelling stories and delivering them straight to your ears. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
Make me smile with my heart. Oh,
Why everything that's supposed to be bad make me feel so good? Everything they told me not to was exactly what I would. Man, I tried to stop, man, I tried the best I could, but
Make me smile.
what's your addiction? Is it money? Is it girls? Is it... I've been afflicted, but not one, not two, but all three. She's got the same thing about me, but more about us. She's coming over, so I guess that means I'm a drugs. Just let me peek now. I mean, dang, I'm so curious. She's got a lover, so the lies and the lust is a rush. Time's of the essence. I need
Welcome
you
back
to be
in to RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. Always on theme. Kanye West. Well, we suspect, but we think other things are going on with Kanye. You know, I was trying to think about how many rappers we've lost, I guess, to lean or something kind of in that area. Obviously, we know Pimp C. That was a big one. That was a shocker. DJ Screw. I'm not sure what Mac Miller, I don't think it was lean, but Mac Miller, you know, definitely dabbled in that. We heard things about, allegedly, Rick Ross and Lil Wayne. Juice WRLD passed away in 2019. I don't think it was lean specifically. I think it was Oxy, but still, you know, we went from in the late 80s and early 90s where hip hop and rap, they were the dealers to the users, right? In the 90s, no one would ever be, but it was fresh off of the crack epidemic. And so it was still fresh what drug use could do to a family, could do to a person, you know? And I think that because drinking, drugging to a degree has always been sort of glamorized if you think about Hollywood, music, etc. So you can't just blame it solely on that because that element has always been there for it. I don't know if it's social media and now you can see somebody that looks like your cousin or your neighbor doing the same things, and maybe that is the difference. Maybe it's just that we're now exposed to it everywhere as far as what we can see and tap into. There's no more secrets. There's no more hiding places. There's no more shame, too. I don't know. I know that that's a complicated issue, but sometimes I feel like we need to bring back shame a little bit, you know? Excuse me. Because people don't seem to recognize, in some cases, how they're tearing themselves down, how they're tearing themselves apart. But, you know, we could go on and on about that. But I do hope that, you know, maybe that explains too why we have the Bow Wow challenge, you know, and things of that nature. Maybe he was so messed up he didn't quite realize what he was doing. And I mean, for the longest time, in theory, you think about how young Bow Wow was in the game and that he went from being exposed to death row and so forth to rolling with Jermaine Dupri and So Def, which shout out to Snoop, man, because Snoop saying this death row is no place for this kid and handing him over to Jermaine Dupri and not being concerned about the potential for money and all of that and trying to, you know, hang a jacket on JD like, you know, you owe me some money for that, right? You know, you got to kick in or anything like that is really something to be talked about in a way, because we hear so many times about people getting screwed over in the music business and beat out of their money. And I know Jermaine and Bow Wow had a little tiff, but realistically, if you think about it, has Bow Wow really said that he got screwed over by anybody throughout his career, or just like his money was terribly mismanaged? I don't believe so. I could be wrong, but I don't believe so. Andy?
I know him and JD had a little tiff, but I guess, you know, that's like family. They're like brothers or whatnot. But with Snoop Dogg, you know, as you're breaking down Snoop and, you know, him not having too much of an ego to want to pretty much, you know, hand Bow Wow over to JD and So Def, it just had me thinking, like, I don't know what the word is, but the only word that's popping up right now for Snoop Dogg is like favor, right? considering everything that he's went through with Death Row, leaving Death Row, Master P picking him up, bringing him into No Limit, and just seeing Snoop Dogg flourish into other avenues outside of hip hop, but also kind gestures, you know what I'm saying,
Right.
with the Bow Wow situation. It just got me thinking, like, man, Snoop Dogg, for whatever reason, like, there's something going on with there. The only word I could think of is this man has favor.
For a reason, you think about the fact that I was listening, I guess, to some of his All the Smoke interview recently, and they, of course, were talking about Coach Snoop, because he has that film that's out. And so in the film, he plays an ex, football star or a current football star that gets into some trouble. But when you think about the Coach Snoop Football League, and it made me go back, I came across, I guess, maybe the algorithm or whatever, the series that they had about the kids that were involved in it, and how they would go. They had kids from all over, in Long Beach, way out in the IE, Santa Clarita, different places, and they would go pick them up after school to bring them to the practices that were in downtown LA, because they wanted to make sure that they got there and they didn't have any trouble, and that they stayed out of trouble that the streets, could get them involved with, just by nature of, we know how life goes. And how, there are some success stories of guys that made it to the NFL that went through Snoop's football league. But bigger than that, the stories of the young men and what they took away from that and how it helped them in life, I think that's important. And you don't often, because we think about Snoop as Snoop, we think about the weed, we think about the women at times, and all of these things, but you don't think about the fact that he really does give back. It may not be, in the big splashy ways, so to speak, like, where we have the big check in the presentation, but he's on the ground, boots on the ground, helping and making a difference. He's in the hood, even though the hood is not always kind to our heroes, so listen, shout out to him, and shout out to his lack of ego and doing the best thing for little Shad Moss there. And shout out to Shad, I'm calling him Shad again. What happened to Bow Wow not wanting to be called Bow Wow anymore and wanting to go by his name? I guess it's hard to get people to move off of a nickname, right?
I thought he was done with Lil Bow Wow.
He was done with Little, but for a minute he was like, I'm going to be Shad Moss, and he was going to go by his name. And I think that's when he was kind of leaning into his acting bag. But I think that much like when Lala wanted to start going by Alani Vasquez, and everybody was like, Lala, it's hard to move people once you establish a name. Look, I think he's done well that people, for the most part, don't call him Lil Bow Wow anymore. But, it's hard. It's hard to change that. Bow Wow, is late 30s now? So 7 when he was hopping around in the Gin and Juice video, 13 when he dropped in 2000, almost 25 years in the game. And we're still, tapping in with him. It's not that long ago that he was just on the successful tour, the Millennium Tour and stuff. It's something to be respected to a degree, even if you don't respect all the moves and choices that he's made.
Mr. 106 in Park.
For real. You can never listen, early 2000s, mid 2000s, about the Scream tour.
I know that set some records, though.
It had to have.
At the time. I don't know what it is now, but I feel like the Scream tour, could have competed with the Era tour, or maybe even the Renaissance tour.
I don't know about that,
but they don't move the needle like Taylor Swift.
Well, here's the thing, though. What they did have, and what is kind of interesting with Taylor to a degree, but kind of when you have young girl fans, they're gonna show up and show out. They're going to buy your little merch. They're going to beg their mom and dad for the stuff. They're going to, at that time it was ringtones, right? They're going to get those little ringtones and, them and Soulja Boy, Kiss Me Through the Phone, all of that. So, listen, that is a loyal, that's why I don't understand why there aren't more groups. I know kids are hard to work with, and I know it's hard to keep them together, but why there aren't more, younger,
R&B groups?
yeah, kid R&B, like, because there's something for everybody, right? You have something for all the different girl types. And I mean, obviously that formula still works. Look at all the K-pop groups. Somebody put a video
for them.
Huh?
For K-pop.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying in general though, the group concept still works. Look at the groups like One Direction. I mean, it's going to happen inevitably. The lead singer's going to get the most attention. They're going to want them to go solo. There's going to be a breakup. But for a period of time, it works.
But see, I think the real question is, does the black group still work?
I think it could. Why? Now, I know, because we've talked about this a lot on this show, how I feel as though the male rapper has taken the place of the male R&B singer. But let me tell you why. As far as the sex symbol and the desired object, when you think about the top R&B singer, who is it? Male.
Now?
Right now.
Chris Brown.
Okay. But Chris Brown has a certain thing, right? When you think about like your top, even though we're talking R&B, but when you think about your top male artists, as far as, I don't know, what we call us, the culture, right? It's going to be somebody like Drake. It's going to be a rapper.
But he does a little R&B though.
He does a little R&B, but that's my point.
Him out.
But that's my point, right? Drake, part of the reason why Drake broke through in the late 2000s with his mixtapes and so forth was because he was being emotional. He was showing vulnerability, and we weren't getting that in rap. We were coming off Southern snap music, a lot of lean, and, a different thing. While Drake was talking about he appreciated thick, big booty girls and, stuff like that, it felt different. So in that, because rappers are now, you think about guys like even Lil Baby or some of the Future, especially, like you said, they're kind of singing. We got auto-tune. They're talking about their emotions and their feelings in a different way. And those kind of emotions and vulnerability for men, I feel, have replaced what used to be where the R&B guy would fill in. Do you know what I'm saying? They're looking to rappers to get that emotional connection and those feelings about how they feel about women and stuff like that. And when I say how they feel about women, to reflect how they may be feeling, or, everybody has that's my song, that's my situation. So I think that the R&B star is, at least right now, for men, not something that is as out front as it was in days past. I mean, you could say Usher, but Usher just had a resurgence because of Vegas. Prior to that, he was still Usher, but nobody was checking for Usher. They felt he was old. They weren't buying his music. So, that's why I feel too why Usher was able to come back so strong, because that love void was missing. That romance thing, we weren't getting that. We're getting something else with these hip-hop artists, but it's a little more rough, rugged, and raw. And in the 90s, it was different, but now it's everywhere. Even the R&B singers are more like rappers than they are like R&B singers in the past.
Well, that's why I think maybe an R&B group probably wouldn't work.
I'm not saying an older one. I'm saying one.
A younger?
Yeah. For like those 13, blow up. It would. Have to be the right
maybe K-pop, maybe like you said, One Direction. I just don't know when it comes to the black folk, to our culture. I mean,
you don't think that we're into that anymore? We're too rough, rugged, and raw.
Low key, you know what I'm saying? I think if they were to come out off the rip corny.
Yeah.
I don't know. I felt like Chris Brown even made a comment about just R&B in general, and I don't remember exactly the words. I'm going to paraphrase, but I just felt like he was saying how nobody's in love. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's begging.
They aren't.
You know what I'm saying? So that's one of the reasons. Like, I don't know. We got to tap into that love in order for it to work, in my opinion.
You got to rip your shirt open in the rain and get down on your knees again. That's what's going to bring it back. Tony Yayo in the chat says, my QB, CJ Stroud, was a member of Snoop's team in LA. I mean, there are quite a few. And Forensic Accountant says, imagine if the Fresh Fest could have leveraged the power of the internet and social media. It would have been huge. It was huge with word of mouth. When we come forward, we'll get into more trending topics and headlines. You're locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Trending topics and the hottest happenings. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, LA, when you're trying to get where you need to go, like work, school, and what matters to you, Metro is here to get you there. With discounted fares and free pass programs, Metro is making public transportation affordable and easy to ride for everyone. Plan your trip at metro.net.
Listen up, City of Los Angeles renters that live in rent-controlled units. Landlords can now increase your rent by 4%. Know these 3 facts. The rent increase is allowed February 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2024. An extra 1% per utility up to 6% can be added if the landlord pays the entire gas and electric bill. And illegal rent increase complaints can be filed at housing.lacity.org. Check if you live in a rent-controlled unit and learn more at housing.lacity.org. Be informed, be protected, be at home.
Jim Gaffigan here with some more Straight Talk. Now you can get a Walmart Plus membership, plus not pay for it, because it's included with Straight Talk wireless plans. You get free delivery with Walmart Plus a Paramount Plus subscription included. Plus, you pay less for gas. That's a lot of pluses.
Only Straight Talk gives you unlimited 5G data and Walmart Plus included on select plans for free.
Straight Talk Wireless, available at Walmart.
Requires service on Gold or Platinum Unlimited. One offer per eligible account. Paramount Plus Essential Plan only. Separate registration required. Additional terms apply.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 believes in community empowerment through the arts. Tia Chucha Central Cultural is on a mission to transform community in the Northeast San Fernando Valley and beyond through ancestral knowledge, the arts, literacy, and creative engagement. The Northeast San Fernando Valley has a population of about 500,000, the size of the city of Oakland, yet it has no bookstores, art galleries, or full-fledged cultural spaces until Tia Chuchas opened its doors in 2001. Founded by renowned poet and activist Luis Rodriguez, Tia Chuchas Cultural Center provides a year-round free or low-cost arts and literacy bilingual intergenerational programming in mural painting, music, dance, writing, visual arts, healing art sessions, and healing talking circles. Activities also include Mexica, Aztec dance, indigenous cosmology, philosophy, and 2 weekly open mic nights, one in Spanish, the other in English. In addition, they host author readings, film screenings, and art exhibits. To express yourself, heal yourself, attend an event, or volunteer, please visit www.tiachucha.org. That's TIACHUCHA.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more captivating conversation on RSVP with Jill Munroe.
You were locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. So we were talking a little bit about, days gone by and the difference sort of in hip-hop moving from being the dealers to the users. It's such an interesting concept because it was such a point of pride in a way, and I get the irony in that, but that, don't get high if you own supply and all of those little catchy things. And now it's like, pass me the hookah and, like things, cup serenades and so forth. So just a difference in mindset. I hope, though, that, it's moving away from it. It seems to be when there was those rash of deaths related to drug use, much like, in the 60s and 70s when we saw a lot of overdoses or alcohol-related deaths during that time period. Seems to be some parallels, but I don't know. Forensic Accountant asks, was Jaheim the first solo R&B artist with a street vibe? I'm trying to think of someone before he hit. I would say no. I mean, you got to think there was like Chico DeBarge. I know he wasn't the same thing, but he was that I'm fresh out, and he was given that. Andy?
I don't know who came before, but I feel like they came out around the same time? Life Jennings?
No, Life was definitely later. Definitely after Jaheim.
You sure?
Yeah.
I want to say early 2000s. Let me.
But I feel like Jaheim was before that because Jaheim came on the heels of Next. And that was when KG from Not Eat by Nature was really, really hot. And I want to say Jaheim dropped maybe 99, 2000. Let's see. Jaheim dropped when? Head to ye old Google. What was his first song? Could It Be? That was my song.
Yeah, you're right. It was before. But I do remember, even though Life Jennings dropped in 2004, I do remember him from the Apollo.
Okay. That makes sense. So, I mean, I think that was really Jodeci was the group that ushered in the R&B bad boy, for lack of a better term, imagery, right? That other guy, too, that we're not allowed to talk about, you know.
He don't count.
He don't count, right?
R. Kelly?
Because he was straight. I mean, he had, initially when he came out, you know, I'm talking with Public Announcement, he moved over with the boots and the, you know, the big baggy suits.
He had the aesthetic.
Yeah. But Jodeci, you know, their tattoos were daring. It's like you look at it now and they had 4. But it was ooh, edgy with the boots and the leather jackets and you know, it was a different type of vibe. And I think that, along with the rise of hip hop, and I mean, look, we got to keep it 100. Diddy's influence. It really, you know, because there was West Coast hip hop, our stuff was a different type of gritty. Huh? It was gangsta, you know, it was Dickies, it was, you know, hard, sharp creases, white tees, hats, you know, a lot of those guys in that rap weren't talking about getting fly. If you listen to any of Snoop and Dre's old stuff or any of the words from there, they weren't talking about putting that stuff on and throwing it on. So I feel like, you know, that came from then. Listen, when we come forward, we're going to get into a topic. We're going to talk about Usher Raymond and his comments regarding his first marriage to his ex-wife, Tamika Foster Raymond, and the critiques that he received regarding that marriage and how he felt attacked by his fans. I think it's a good conversation to have because there are a lot of reasons why people look at Tamika receiving that type of treatment and what it meant for Usher at that time as a sex symbol. So we're going to get into that on the other side. Stay locked in. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
As we can go, then I'll get the lotion and do something to me when your thighs is exposed. No turning back now. I mean, I don't mean to impose. Not now, but right now, I need you to undress and then pose. I'm into that now. Get your vibe when the doors get closed. Roll up the Doja, Henny and Coca-Cola, and I keep coming over.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Fulton County DA Fonnie